about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show, 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So we're being told that if you are a Catholic priest in Washington State, and if you, during confession, hear of a child abuse case and you want to report it, that the Catholic Church allegedly will excommunicate you. Now, this is being reported by Newsweek. I'm a physician. If at all I have a patient and a child that I suspect are being abused, I, by law, have to report it. A lot of people go to doctors at their safe spaces. So there, if I see it, or if I, or the parent goes, he just keeps falling, and you're kind of looking at the mechanism of injury going, those are odd bruises for a fall. It just doesn't. And they teach us how to look at bruises and, do the forensic sort of analysis to see what, might have happened. And if we're at all suspected abuse, because the child can't say anything, we're required by law. But what about a priest? If somebody is in confession and they're telling, the priest that I'm filled with demons and I will sometimes project this on my children, what is the priest to do? Is it the obligation of the priest to protect that child by Washington State? Apparently it is. But the church wants the sanctity and the privacy of confession. So this is interesting, unless the media is getting it wrong. But there's a U.S. state law, and the Catholic Church has issued, according to Newsweek, a warning to its clergy in Washington State that any priest who complies with this law requiring the reporting of child abuse confessions to authorities are going to be excommunicated. This law takes place July 27th. They say it eliminates the longstanding confidentiality of the confessional, forcing Catholic leaders and lawmakers into a highly charged standoff over religious liberty and child protection. The Archdiocese of Seattle and several bishops argue that the law not only contravenes church doctrine, but crosses constitutional lines, while supporters maintain it is a crucial step to protect minors from abuse. Now, this is concerning. So we had something similar. That's not the best analogy, but when we were discussing the laws around asking a parent if they have a gun. And it isn't the same situation, but patients were like, well, wait a second. If I tell my doctor that I have a gun, then that doctor can report me. I could be on a list. Yet the doctor doesn't care about the list, doesn't care. What they care about is the kid. They want to make sure that the kid doesn't access that gun, think it's a toy. They want to make sure that, like what happened in one family where a cleaning lady thought it was a toy, put the gun, because it was lying around, put the gun into the toy box. A kid plays with the toys, looks at the gun, shoots himself. So, depending on state law, what I urge doctors to do is have the talk with every parent. Well, say, look, if you don't want to tell me if you have a gun in the house or not, fine, but you're going to listen to this in case you do. Have it locked up. These are things you need to watch out for. A lot of kids, might not, it might get swept up and put in the toy box, where kids might want to look down the barrel because they like looking at holes and canals. That's why they're going to, this is what happens. And by the time I finished talking with them, whether they had a gun or not, they knew about gun safety. And they knew that they needed to, whether they're cleaning the gun or whatever. Yeah, if they didn't have a gun, then, they still got a beautiful lesson. But, I think what the church is probably concerned about is that people will be afraid to confess. That and this is a concern people have in the medicine realm, where now that telemedicine is recording, now that things are getting documented, people don't want a diagnosis that could later be used against them with a different administration as it pertains to guns, as it pertains to jobs, as it pertains to political ideology. And so I notice many patients are telling their doctors very little or just outright lying because of what gets documented. And so I think the church doesn't want there to be, and I'm not on the side of the church in this case, because if a child is getting abused, you got to report it. That's why there's a state law. I mean, if somebody is admitting that a kid is being sexually assaulted or hurt, that kid has got to be protected. But I think their concern is well, then nobody's going to admit it, and then we can't help them, and then we can't intervene. So, this is what's, is it religious liberty? Is it the Constitution? I just care about the kid. But I also care about making sure that people have a place where they can open up about that. We are really starting to get to a point where people are like, I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to do my own thing. And then all of a sudden they become a shooter or they become and so I don't know what the answer is. However, I do agree with any law that if a child is getting abused, you have got to get the authorities to protect that kid and get that kid the help they need. Now, I understand there's been a lot of back and forth going, well, what if the kid wants to go through transgender, changes, and they want to do that, and the parents say, no, we need to help the kid, but look, if there's anything that could possibly hurt a child or affect them long term, okay, there has to be somebody outside looking in and ensuring that the safety of that child is paramount. But my guess is, if there's been people confessing that they're beating their children, or they're once they get in trouble with the law, they no longer confess. And so people are going to look at the Catholic churches, don't go there because they're tattletales. But the problem is you still have to protect the child. If somebody is admitting to raping somebody, repeatedly, there has to be a way where, the priest could make a judgment call and protect that person. 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away. Dr. Daliah here. Are you tired, burned out, gaining weight, succumbing to the daily pressures of life? Well, how's your dopamine doing? How you feel right now, how you'll feel an hour from now, and how you'll feel next week is completely reliant on your dopamine. Our daily motivation and willingness to push through challenges depends on the intricate chemical process dopamine provides. Christian Kalikas and I created Deploying Dopamine, a book that tells you what dopamine is, when it dysfunctions, and how to successfully deploy it when needed. Find Deploying Dopamine on Amazon today. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
Stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
right back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on X or Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So we're in allergy season, and boy, are we. And we speak about allergies a lot on the show because I get affected with allergies. And so if I forget to talk about it, all I have to do is sneeze and go, oh, yeah, we got to talk about that. But each year we get the AAFA's allergy capitals, where the cities that are the most affected by allergies and the cities that are the least shall we say, afflicted. And the 2025 allergy capital list has been released. They rank the 100 most populous cities in the United States by how challenging they are to live, based on pollen allergens, whether they have worse than average tree and grass pollen, worse than average allergy medicine use, and fewer board-certified allergists and immunologists. So it's an interesting ranking because it's not just about the pollen levels. They look at, well, how much medicine are these people actually using to control them? And then, do they have good allergy immunology representation? Because they could do allergy shots, they could do maintenance, they could do prevention. So the most challenging cities, number 1 this year was Wichita, Kansas. Number 2 was New Orleans. Number 3 was Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Number 4 was Tulsa, Oklahoma. Number 5 was Memphis, Tennessee. Number 6 was Little Rock, Arkansas. Number 7 for the most challenging cities, Raleigh, North Carolina. 8, Richmond, Virginia. 9, Greensville, South Carolina. And 10 was Greensboro, North Carolina. Now, who were the least challenging cities? Rounding up the least, number 100 was Boston, Massachusetts. Then Salt Lake City came in 99. Akron, Ohio, San Diego, Cleveland, Boise, Provo, Madison, Ogden, Utah, and Denver, Colorado came in number 90. Now, when you look at the report, so I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, and so I feel like, I feel like Las Vegas is riddled with it, and I think it's because I went to school here. And I really, really struggled as it pertained to the olive trees. We get a lot of, so it's interesting. People say, well, Daliah, you live in the desert, so you don't have as much pollen. We have weeds. We do have trees. We have a lot of landscaping. There's grasses. Absolutely. And the olive trees kill me. Those are really, really bad. So when you look at some of the states, Orlando, Florida came in 34. Las Vegas came in number 38. And Las Vegas has worse than average specialists. That's why they ranked where they did as number 38. They also have average medicine use, pollen, but, average. And we live in a desert. So it shows you that imagine if we actually had more vegetation. And maybe it's because we're also very windy. So I think that needs to be taken into account. We have a lot of wind. We have a lot of dust. There's a lot of things that get, my house always. I'm hearing at night our lawn furniture pounding against the house. And it's, because of the wind. So I think the wind definitely holds something. So El Paso, Texas came in number 50. Riverside, California, Daytona Beach, Columbus, Ohio, Toledo, L.A., Portland, San Francisco, all kind of came into the middle. But some of the better cities to live included Chicago, Bridgeport, Connecticut, Spokane, Dayton, Colorado Springs, Rochester, New York, Detroit, Michigan, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, New York. Well, New York usually ranks high because there's not a lot of plants, but because they have a lot of specialists. So what's very interesting is when you look at some of the worst states, that are more rural, like Tulsa, although Tulsa is, Little Rock, Raleigh, part of that is based on the specialists, although New Orleans has a lot of specialists, so that ranked them higher. So allergy season begins roughly when the spring does, but you could start having allergies in January, February. You can have allergies year round. For me, I am really starting to hurt April and May. So I need to start my medication in March. I either get a Kenalog shot or I start my nasal steroid, Flonase. I don't like taking antihistamines every day. But tree pollens start first in January, then they taper off in April. Grass pollen starts to rise in February and March, and then the weeds join the party in the spring and extend through the summer and fall. Ragweed is notorious for causing fall allergies, and fall allergies start mid-August and extend to mid-November. So for those of you with asthma, some of you might say, you know what, I have spring issues, but I also have fall issues. That's why you should be checking in with your doctor 4 times a year, so that at least they can test you and see when your bad season is, and then make sure you're on their preventative medication. So what are allergies? Why do we have them? Well, it's a defense mechanism. Your body wants to spew out something that gets in that's foreign. So if you don't want dust in your body, insects, pollen, these are things that your body rejects. Mold, metals. You could have an allergic reaction to transfused blood, to medication. If the body identifies this as an intruder, a hypersensitivity reaction happens. You get these IgE antibodies that find the allergen. They activate mast cells in the tissue, basophils in the blood. When these cells get activated, willy-nilly, they release substances to help protect you, like they'll release histamines and leukotrienes and cytokines. And that helps the body attempt to sneeze and cough and spew out the allergen. Also, it might help it wall off the allergen. Sometimes these things will signal more antibodies. It'll also make tears to flush it out. And so it's a defense mechanism. The problem is sometimes the defense mechanism can hurt you more than help you. So symptoms of allergies are sneezing, coughing, wheezing, runny nose, watery eyes, red eyes, itchy skin, rash, itchy throat, scratchy throat, fatigue, congestion. But sometimes these allergies could get really, really bad, where you start to have swelling and difficulty breathing. And so some people that do, let's say, have a severe peanut allergy or bee sting allergy or severe allergies, or suffer from asthma, COPD, other reactive airway disease, could struggle to the point where they can go into respiratory failure. So people will always say, well, it might be a cold because I feel bad. What's the difference? So colds, especially the common cold, is caused by viruses. So the difference between, to me, allergies and a cold is when I get a cold, I get body aches. I feel sick. I might get a fever. My nose might start to thicken and have yellowish discharge, or if I cough, might be yellow-green. Everybody goes, oh, that means it's bacteria. It could also be viruses. Whereas allergies, it'll be clear. Your nose will be clear. So like with your eyes itching and watering, that might not be a bacterial or a viral pink eye, but because it's clear. Or it might be a uveitis or iritis or something else. So thicker mucus, colored mucus is more of a cold or bacteria, viral or bacteria. And same thing with sore throat. If your throat is sore and you got swollen glands, that's going to be more of a pathogen. As opposed to if it's scratchy or itchy, then that could be more of an allergy. Also, it's cyclical. So I could get sneezy and itchy throat, and then I come home, I take a shower to wash off any pollen, and I notice I feel better. Whereas if I'm sick all day. So if you can actually induce your allergies every time you go out or every time you go on a hike, or, like I'll go to Red Rock. I love Red Rock, but you are surrounded by beautiful vegetation, and then I'll start to sneeze. So if I could make it happen, it's then more allergic. Now, people will always say, well, whenever I get allergies, I get a sinus infection. So it'll lead to a cold. Well, how that might happen is if your immune system is so busy addressing the allergen, its guard might be down. Also, if you do start to have in your sinuses a collection of the fluid that you're using to drain, once there's stasis, you could get viruses or bacteria and other things. So yes, allergies actually can lead to that in some people. But it doesn't mean everybody needs antibiotics. We don't usually give antibiotics for allergies. And many sinus infections could also be viral. So some of the worst offenders, ragweed, mountain cedar, ryegrass, maple, elm, mulberry, pecan, oak, pigweed, Arizona cypress. In terms of trees, alder, ash, beech, birch, box elder, cedar, cottonwood, date palm, elm, mulberry, hickory, juniper, oak, pecan, phoenix palm, red maple, silver maple, sycamore, walnut, willow. And then for grasses, Bermuda, Johnson, Kentucky bluegrass, orchard, ryegrass, sweet vernal grass, and Timothy grass. See, dahlias don't offend anybody. Do you notice that? Dahlias, pretty good. Although there are flowers, the pigweed, chamomile, chrysanthemums, daisies, goldenrod, and sunflowers could also cause allergies. So be aware of your local weather and pollen counts. Avoid pollen outside from coming into your house. Have like a mudroom or clean yourself off. Wash pollen from your hair and clothes. Wear sunglasses and a hat. Close your car. Recirculate your air in your car. And definitely talk to your medical provider about prevention of your symptoms. Look, I taught you guys something. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
On the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So Weight Watchers is declaring bankruptcy, we're being told. CBS News is reporting that the 62-year-old weight loss program's parent company, WW International, has announced today, or yesterday, that it aims to eliminate $1.1 billion in debt as part of the Chapter 11 filing and to focus on expanding its fledgling telehealth business. Services to Weight Watchers customers will continue uninterrupted. But they are filing for bankruptcy, and I think one of the biggest reasons is people are going to the Ozempic and Mounjaro semaglutide tirzepatide shots. So, according to Weight Watchers CEO Tara Camonte, said our existing debt has been a significant burden on the business for many years and has resulted in approximately $100 million in annual interest payments in each of the last 2 years. Weight Watchers said it expects to complete the reorganization in 40 days and emerge as a publicly traded company. They have more than 3 million members worldwide. They also offer prescription weight loss medication through a Weight Watchers clinic subscription program. I think that's fascinating because Weight Watchers was all about working on your diet, working on you, not relying on medications. But they ended up having to, adapt to what customers wanted. So they said, quote, importantly, Weight Watchers remains fully operational with all of their offerings and services, including their workshops, their app, their telehealth business, continuing to operate with no interruption during this reorganization process and beyond. To repeat, no impact to their members. So their revenues of $186.6 million for the first quarter of 2025 was down about 10%. A year ago, the company had fiscal year 2024 revenue of $786 million. That was less than half back in 2018. So when I was going through puberty in the 80s, we all remember that, my parents were struggling with weight. And they were going to Weight Watchers, so I go, well, I want to go with you because I want to make sure I don't gain any more weight because I gained 30 pounds in 1 year. That's when I got the boobies. That's when I got the hips. I went from being a stick to being very curvy. And I was a little frightened because, there wasn't a bra big enough. And I was like, where did this happen? And so I remember going to Weight Watchers, and I loved that concept. And I was, 13? And so, how they did it back in the 80s was you would go to these weekly meetings. You would go up and get weighed. Nobody else would see your weight. But if you lost weight, there'd be a big bell, a big woohoo, yay. And you'd actually get little gifts, little gardening tools, things like that. Everybody's like, yay, you lost another 5 pounds. Woo. And I remember they taught us to drink plenty of water and to even drink the water before you eat. That's why when, in the restaurant, they serve you water, drink the water first. Okay. Because it helps fill you up. They talked to us about, we didn't have the point system back then. But they talked about the fruits and the vegetables, and you would weigh your food. And some people really liked that in the 80s, and a lot of us were doing Jane Fonda workouts. And then they started to make it more simple because people weren't weighing and buying the Weight Watcher scale and calculating the portion size. So then they came up with the point system, which was brilliant. Now, I didn't need Weight Watchers, so I never was a part of the back then. Now I do. But when they started to go into the point system in the 90s and 2000s, that was where, okay, well, a slice of cheese, I think was 4 points, and an Egg McMuffin was 7 points, but vegetables were 0 points. So for those of you who like to budget, based on your weight and your height, you get, let's say, 280 points or 250 points for the week. So figure out how you're going to use it. Whether you're going to intermittent fast, whether you're going to eat vegetables throughout the day, but then have a fun dinner, you get some cheat points at the end of the week. And people did well. They really did well on Weight Watchers. But it takes work. And it takes daily thinking of your diet, which is really one of the reasons why I endorsed, not like officially endorsed or legally endorsed, but the reason why I liked Weight Watchers, and I spoke about that, is because if you are going to be dealing with your weight, you can't just blow it off and go, I'll worry about it on the weekend. You need to calculate and understand every single thing you're putting into your mouth, because that all adds to your weight. Mass in doesn't always equal mass out. But if you're putting mass in, it all matters. You can't ignore what you did Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Same thing with exercise. You can't just exercise. I know some people, they'll exercise on the weekends and they'll be fine. But for those of you that are really struggling to lose weight, then you got to think about exercising every day. Why? Because your body needs exercise every day. That's how the body works. The body doesn't just go, well, I'll just wait till the weekend. You might need to rest on the weekend during the Sabbath, but you still need to function every day during the week. You have to eat healthy. You can't just eat like crap and then hope, well, on Sunday I'll have a salad. So what I liked about Weight Watchers is you had to think about your food daily. It was brilliant. But it took work. Then people got wind that these diabetic medications can help you lose weight. The companies, of course, want to market it. They made a boatload of money now being able to get FDA approval for weight loss. And now you have all these people on weight loss drugs so they don't have to go to Weight Watchers. Now, I was saying, watch. I think people are going to go back to Weight Watchers when they notice that the Ozempic pen, after a while, for some, might poop out. And they might notice their weight the same. And they're in weight loss limbo. And they're afraid to stop paying the $1,000 a month because they're going to start gaining the weight back. And so I think people will return back to Weight Watchers. That's why they're not going anywhere, because at some point, these drugs are not sustainable. They're either too costly, there's not enough, or we don't know the safety of the long term, or they stop working. So Weight Watchers is going to need to reposition themselves and be there for people when the shots stop working. And I predict the shots will eventually stop working on some, not everybody, but on some, because the people who lose weight are the ones that work on it daily. My son lost a lot of weight, and it's because he exercises every day, sometimes twice a day. That's how I did it when I had to lose weight. And he watches what he eats. And you have to think about it on a daily basis. And so it's a shame to see, a company like Weight Watchers that's been around for 6 decades to, struggle. But also, the fact that they're still making that kind of income. Their fiscal year was $786 million. It means not everybody can get those shots, or not everybody is losing weight on those shots. And so Weight Watchers does have a market. But then the other thing, too, that this exemplifies is debt. My mortgage rate, I had refinanced when the rates were down to the 2s. But my interest payment is ridiculous, even with a 2% loan. I think my loan is 2.6. Any debt sucks. And we just work. Companies wouldn't be in debt and wouldn't go bankrupt if they didn't need to borrow. If you owned your building, if you owned your all your equipment and etc. But business models have changed to where, well, you could rent the equipment, like the medical equipment, you rent it. See, we bought our X-ray. We're like, we want to own it. This way, we could trust it. We can. But what a lot of people do is they go, well, we're going to rent it out, and then when we don't need it anymore, we give it up, like a lease. But we just didn't want to necessarily be in debt. But how a lot of companies do it is, well, they're going to rent space, they're going to rent this, they're going to borrow for this marketing campaign. They're just going to borrow. And same thing with money. You got to think about it on a daily basis. And then all of a sudden you're like, whoa, that's my credit card amount? I even, with all my fiscal conservatism, I still get shocked at the credit card bill every month. Because I threw the gas on there. I threw the food on there. I threw the Mother's Day gift on there. I threw the trip on there. And I was like, whoa. I need to think about my spending every day. So the lesson to be learned is concentrate, whether it's your health, whether it's your finances, whether it's your weight, your calories, every day. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So over the past few years, squatters took advantage. And many of the laws in many of these states really wouldn't help the landowner. And we spoke about how some of these landlords or the owners of the property, they would either go to help a sick mom, ask a neighbor to watch the house, be gone for even, just a vacation. And then squatters would move in. And if you didn't realize it under the 10-day or 5-day or 1-day rule, whatever was in your state or city, you were up a creek. You couldn't get them out. You couldn't call the police. And how these squatters were allowed to stay is they would have fake leases, some of them. with fake signatures saying that I have the legal paperwork right here. This is my home. What are you doing? You can't evict me from my home. Here's the lease. And the landlord's like, that's not even my signature. But by the time I made it through the courts, it could be months or years. So some people would hire these squatter hunters, quote unquote. And somebody had asked me, how does that work? How does squatter hunters, how do they fix the problem? Well, what the squatter hunters do and how they get rid of the squatters is they just move in. They just move in. They have a legal lease on the property. They have access to the keys. So they go in, move in, and they go, what are you doing here? And they go, we live here. No, this is my notarized lease. I live here. This is my home. And then they just live there. Now, that could be pretty dangerous because, somebody could shoot somebody. But what they seem to do is they just move in and move back in on that home. And so they have access to the home. They're on the lease. They move in. And then the squatters are like, okay, wait a second here. Do I want to share my home with this person? And a lot of times they leave. Well, interestingly, there was a Chicago resident who was fed up. He did the same thing. Marco Velasquez owns a property on the south side of Chicago. And he was preparing to sell the home when his real estate agent discovered a couple living there. Charmaine Poland Gillard and her boyfriend Codaro claimed that they had purchased the home. Velasquez told the news outlet, this is being reported by Daily Mail, that the couple showed police officers who were called to the address documents claiming they had a mortgage for the address. Now, a search of county records indicated that no mortgage record actually existed. So they were fake forms that they got online. Officers on the scene told Velasquez, this is in Chicago, that there was nothing they could do because of the state laws. So he would have to take this couple living in his property to civil court. So he's like, forget it. I'll just move in. So his wife and his friends joined him. It was overnight. They stayed in the living room. They said they were watching the door at all times. The couple stayed in one of the bedrooms. At one point, they have to leave. They'll get so tired of us being in the property. And so the next morning, the couple told Velasquez that they would accept $8,000 in exchange for them vacating the address. It's extortion, but so he had them sign an agreement, was able to negotiate them down, paid them $4,300 to get the hell off his property. Under Illinois state law, officers are not allowed to remove anyone from their home. Newsweek reported that a loophole exists that gives squatters legal standing to possess real estate owned by property owners. Now, Velasquez said he didn't want to give them money, but we heard really bad stories about squatters taking over properties for 6, 8, 10 months, even a year. Not to mention the damage a lot of these squatters do, where they will wreck the place before they leave. So he might have gotten off easy with the $4,300. I think it still stinks he had to pay that, but considering what many other victims have been dealing with, it's pretty bad. So a few weeks after this standoff, Velasquez, according to Daily Mail, told the outlet that an officer informed him that Powell Gillard is accused of squatting now at another property. She was arrested and charged with burglary, forgery, obstruction, identification, and criminal residential trespassing. Now, not sure why that couldn't have been done in his case, but she said she wasn't a squatter, and yeah, but so she wasn't charged with that case, but with so it's dangerous to have somebody living in your home, somebody that could sadly be wrecking it and putting you or your family at risk. In fact, one woman who took care of her mom for a few months came back to her house and all her belongings were sold. Really? So, watch your properties. Luckily, I don't have any properties, except where I live. But unfortunately, that's what happens. But I would not recommend doing that because you don't know if the squatters are going to hurt you or try to stab you at night. I mean, I could not live next to other people. But what they did is he got all his friends and everybody to come into the living room, and they probably put the music on really loud, and they just were obnoxious. Good. It's their property. They have every right to be. And then finally, the other couple, let's get out of here. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So John Fetterman has been in the news because of what he calls a dumb hit piece in New York Magazine, where a former staffer questioned his hardiness and health status for the job. Now, this is being reported by Fox News. As we all know, John Fetterman, Pennsylvania Democratic senator, suffered a stroke during his 2022 campaign. He survived it, was able to beat Dr. Oz for the Senate seat, and has drawn some criticism by members of his party because he's more of a common sense Democrat. He's a common sense senator, saying, look, this isn't bad what Trump wants to do. I support this, I don't support that. He's also a very spoken critic of anti-Semitism. Well, now we're being told that one of his campaigners tried to leak to the press his health issues. And Fetterman said, everyone takes a beating sometimes. It was just a dumb hit piece, and we've all moved on. Apparently, he claimed former staffer Adam Gentleson was quoted by the magazine, must have a, quote, bizarre grudge, he said, that he would speak so critically of him, as many staffers who have spoken out express irritation at his shift from being progressive. So the story, I guess, said Gentleson, who was a top aide of Harry Reid, wrote to doctors at Walter Reed that Fetterman, quote, frequently exhibits the kind of alarming behavior you told us to look for when he was discharged and appears to be off his recovery plan. But that's where we are, according to Fetterman, and we've all moved on. So, John Fetterman insists he's in good health. Staffers say they no longer recognize the man they once knew. Now, mind you, strokes can do a number on your health, on your mentation, etc. But when we decide if somebody is fit for duty, like we should have with Joe Biden, is they do competency mental status exams. They should. We should look to make sure they could still perform and be able to do their work. But if somebody doesn't like, let's say, their attitude, or they don't like their executive orders, trying to say they're too sick to work, that's a big step. Not remembering, heads of state. When the president is speaking, that's an issue, and alluding and misaddressing, people that you're there to meet from foreign countries. That's kind of a no-no. Standing there frozen with other foreign leaders having to point you in the direction of a camera, those are some signs. If I'm not seeing Fetterman do that, I'm going to say let's leave it up to his doctor. But it does bring up an issue we're going to be talking about later in the month, where people fear that somebody is going to say that you have a condition that you don't, and then the authorities are going to say, when you deny it, well, you're just lying. There's usually protections in place for that. 1-877-DOC-DALI, don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.